felt like I was keeping secrets and I just wanted to tell somebody or write it out somehow. And I just wrote a song about it so I could express how I was feeling and not have to hold it in any longer. And I had a dream that you were standing tall there with a roof and a chimney. And there was the front lawn, green and grassy, but it's all gone. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. And if I could get it all.
The destination is on your right. 1730 Cary Lane.
They're done.
Arrived.
I was over in my room and I got woken up around 1:32 in the morning.
The morning of the fires, I woke up and the sky looked really beautiful. It was like orange and gray.
It was like my first time seeing fire.
Yeah?
Yes.
My fiance burst through the door and told me that our city was on fire.
I looked out the window of my bathroom at that time and I saw other neighbors poking their heads out their doors and windows, and we shouted to each other and said, wake everybody up.
Yeah.
We gotta get out. This is not safe.
I don't think anybody in Coffey Park really expected the fire to cross 101.
Upon arriving here, I took a quick assessment of what was on fire and what was likely to burn. And it was the hyenas and the cheetahs that were most imperiled.
And so I went outside and I was just like dumbfounded. It had never been, it was almost like it was like snowing, ashes.
There were no warnings that we needed to leave. We had to decide for ourselves, so I kept going outside to see how bad things got.
Oh, we were in Coffey Park, by the way. Yeah.
And ultimately decided it was time to go.
Over the fence, you could see the red glow of the hills, and my wife finally got her phone to work, and she said, oh, we should have evacuated like 2 hours ago. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning now. She said, we got to go now.
We took, about 5 or 6 paintings, some cash, love letters, some pictures, dogs and cats, kids.
Told me to pack only the things that were really valuable to me. I didn't really know what was going on. I was kind of worried and I didn't really get why we were doing this, but I knew I should have, and something bad was about to happen.
We're in Fountain Grove, for heaven's sakes. This is suburbia. We don't get firestorms. And so I grabbed our trust documents, all of our legal papers, because that's what I do for a living, so it was foremost in my brain. My wife grabbed the 24-pack of Costco toilet paper.
I got my stuffies and the important stuff.
I started hooking up garden hoses to put out the most immediate and pressing flames, and then taking trucks and tractors and forklifts and moving equipment and moving material that was liable to catch on fire, making things worse.
I knew that it was bad. The air, besides being beautiful, the weird orange gray sky, it was really eerie. And after we kind of figured out what was happening, it was almost like apocalyptic,
We tried to leave in our car.
That was probably around like 2 in the morning.
Yeah. We made it about 7 blocks and we got stuck in gridlock.
I got in the car and we started to drive, but only made it about 3 blocks before we got stuck in traffic. And that made me really worried. I was afraid that we weren't going to make it when I finally knew what was going on.
We just left, and when we were walking out the door, our door, it was so windy, and we couldn't close the door because it kept flying open.
And as I left, I went up to go get our neighbor, Marlene, and she was still asleep. And by the time I got up to her house, there was already flames visible on the ridgeline right before Paradise Ridge. So basically it had already gotten into Fountain Grove and had probably done a lot of damage and was coming up over the hill towards Paradise Ridge Winery.
And then my father saw the flames rising and houses near our car were bursting up into flames, and he had to do something, but he didn't tell us that because he didn't want us to panic.
I got about 12 blocks. Traffic did not clear up. So then I came back, and as I was returning to the car, I could see behind our car, my whole family was looking forward along with the car, and I saw behind the car one row of houses behind the street we were on was just exploding, going up into flames.
And I was knocking on her window and she was still asleep. I was knocking on her window. I started banging really loud, and she finally got up and was all groggy.
He said we should probably run holding hands over to the train tracks. So we ripped up an old shirt and wet it, and we used them as smoke masks. And we ran until we stopped and tried to pull over a car and have them let us jump in.
I thought our house would not burn down, but my mom said our house will burn down, so that was sad.
I'd lived through fire evacuations before where my house did not burn. And so I had this attitude of, oh, I'm going to be back in 48 hours.
We had 4 homes and a family compound, and those 4 homes all burned, and 2 barns as well.
I was so sad that our house just burned down, and I don't like when our house is burned down. It was like in a movie. We were watching the video, and it's like a movie. Everything was white, everything was covered in like thick layer of smoke. You couldn't see very far away because of the smoke, and everything was just covered in like a layer of ash.
Once I was able to confirm that the school was gone, I immediately started thinking about my students and being really worried for them and really scared for them.
That night, I was kind of sad and scared to hear that everything was gone and there's no going back.
Later on, I realized when I had gotten to the house where everybody came to, I realized that I had passed by Michelle's driveway, who was an elderly neighbor. She's probably, I think, 92 or 93, and she lives there alone. And so I got there and immediately was like, shit, I have to go back and check on her, make sure she's gone.
The sheriffs had come in and ordered an evacuation, and I just sort of disappeared. I couldn't leave.
We went to our friend Troy's house, and we stayed over there for a few nights. None of us could really sleep, and it was hard. There were a lot of people there, and barely anybody seemed that happy. It was kind of strange.
It was like both of my brothers, both kids, Lauren and I, our cat and our dog all sleeping in a small office that night. And then the 2 neighbors were in the living room. I don't think really anyone but Miles slept that night.
It's like a vacation.
Yeah, it was like a vacation.
Well, it's where we go for Christmas
we go
to my
there for
sisters, so it felt like, is this a holiday? What really happened? Because we still couldn't comprehend that our house was gone.
After being away for 45 minutes to an hour, the flames were probably had already burned the tasting room and come down, because they were another 100, 200 yards closer. And so we were leaving her house and brought her like partially away, and Marlene was just screaming at us because the fire was getting so close and so fast. And Michelle, being an old elderly lady, she was just like walking so slow, so I picked her up and we ran to the car.
Absolutely do not regret leaving my homes, no. This was the proper decision to make, and when you're making a decision between material things and living things, It's the living things that count.
Not only did they lose their school, but 7 of our students also lost their homes. Children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, typically really require, need structure. So obviously, with the school burning down and the town on fire, that made it impossible for a lot of that structure to be maintained. I was astounded with the amount of flexibility I saw in the kids, even though they were also heartbroken.
Sometimes I like to pretend that it's still here, even though it's not. I'm not trying to go back. I just want to remember what it was like.
This isn't home, you know? You have to create that still.
We found our house that we have right now, which we feel like is even more of a home than our old one, really. The only thing missing is the memories.
I learned a lot about how people give during that time.
The people that I talked to about wanting to rebuild right away and really wanting to work together to do it as smoothly as possible. So we have a lot to do in our community to help not just the people who are rebuilding houses, but kind of rebuilding lives.
Then I would, if I could.